Greetings and welcome to Let's Talk About Books, baby, where we talk with your favorite LGBTQ plus authors. I'm Anita Kelly, and my guest today is Joe Chianakas. Hello, Joe.
Well, hello. Thank you so much for having me back here. I think I saw another author had a return visit and I got immediately jealous and was like, I have to follow up right away. No, just kidding. But it's great to be back here.
Oh, it's great to have you back. I really enjoyed our talk. That was maybe a year ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, boy, time's just a blur
I
right
know.
now. But yeah, I think it was last summer. So maybe just a little bit under a year. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's great to have you back and talk about your new release that is called Darkness Calls. And it sounds ominous to me. So tell us about that book, Joe.
Yeah, so this is my dark side, my scary side, and
Ooh.
I love scary stories. This is my Monster in the Woods book. I wanted to write a story that is basically one part monster in the woods, one part haunted nostalgia, and a twist of dark fantasy in there too. So it's this really cool, big story. It follows four different kinds of characters, four very diverse characters, as they have to fight this literal monster in the woods called the Darkness. And it is actually going after select kids in a particular community. Without giving away too much, it seeks certain energy, right? So it's going after some kids. I got a lot of symbolism in here. And it's going after kids who are different, kids who are special. And it's actually going to take some of us who are different and special to come together to fight this evil.
Oh, wow. It sounds timely.
Sometimes I want to send a little press release out that's like, just so you know, the title of my book does not reference how I feel right now in 2025. It is, but it is timely. At the same time, this monster, right away, I can't help it. I put all of my frustrations, angers into my writing, if you will, but not so literal. This is something I've been working on for a long time, and it does kind of have a multiple perspectives. On one hand, the monster actually, or my philosophy behind the evil in the story is that it's not just about bad things or it's not just about evil doing bad things. It's about evil getting good people to do bad things.
Ooh.
That's the theme I was struggling to get out there, but there it is.
Yeah.
And that's one hand. And then on the other hand of it, not only is it timely in terms of like how evil can manipulate us, I think, but this was my story I wrote when my mom passed away from cancer.
Oh.
So I had a really close relationship with her. She was my best friend, and that was really hard. And I grieved in my writing, but I tried to make something really cool out of it. She's the reason I love scary stories.
Ah.
So there's all these little layers of. She let me watch horror movies when I was a kid, and
Mm-hmm.
we bonded over that. So on one hand, my monster is also kind of symbolic of that cancer, I guess, that can just an uncontrollable, incredibly powerful force that can get anyone at any time for any reason, for no reason. And so all of these layers take place in this story.
Yeah. Wow. It almost sounds like it was cathartic to write for you, right?
Very much so. I say that the beautiful thing about writing when you're struggling with things, like I'm an overthinker in general, so I try to put a lot of my thoughts just onto paper. It helps me focus. It helps me process and get, and understand. But for sure, when you're grieving, I think it can be one of the best things. And I can do in fiction, in particular. Here's what's cool about fiction is I can do. I get to make up my own story. So what happens, maybe I get to help control. I get to do some really kind of cool magical stuff in the story that, of course, didn't happen in real life. But anyone who knows a little bit about my motivations when they read this book, I think you'll pick up on it pretty clearly, which parts I'm celebrating and how I'm still making the most of a bad situation.
Yeah. So this is kind of different from the last book that you had published when you were on the show, right? That was like a young adult novel, very
Yeah.
different. And I'm wondering, do you have like a different writing process when you're writing horror stories versus writing young adult novels? Because this is not like your first horror story, right?
No, my first one that got published was Rabbit in Red, which was a celebration of all things scary. And I did a trilogy that was 2015, 2016, 2017. And then I got picked up by another publisher and I started working on. Last time we talked about Singlets and Secrets and Pride and Persistence. They're my queer Karate Kid stories, you know, and I
Yes.
love them. I love them so, and there's still more to come. The third one of that's coming out later this year, too.
Oh, cool.
So I'm hustling, I'm grinding, let me tell
You
you, but I'm having
are.
a blast. Having a blast doing it.
Oh, good.
It's really a vibe, I guess, more than a change in style. First of all, it helps my mind to not always be in the same world or universe or theme or tone. So if I want to get creative, I don't always just want to write the same kind of story over and over again. So I go from Aiden's world and my queer Karate Kid story, and then I jump over into Darkness Calls, and there are these monsters, and it keeps me focused.
Mm-hmm.
But what's kind of fun is, yeah, my theme is what I'm listening to, I guess, or what kind of music I'm listening to. So for Darkness Calls, I listen to the It Follows soundtrack, which is a great, really eerie, creepy score for a scary movie. I listen to the Stranger Things soundtrack and score. I do John Carpenter's Lost Themes. If you're a Halloween fan, you know that famous theme song that he helped produce. He has a whole album full of these great themes, and they are dark and creepy. So I write to that when I
Wow.
do Darkness Calls, and then I go to pop music for for Aiden. You know, I'm having a good time, or I'm listening to a song about heartbreak. So really, just trying to get my mind in the place where the character is. It's like the ultimate. It's like I would imagine an actor would do when they're trying to act out a role of a character. I'm just trying to get in the right headspace for the theme or the tone of what I'm writing that day. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That is so cool that you let the music guide you, right? Um,
Yeah, you know, I mean, seriously, I have a list of like my favorite. I remember writing a big, you know, breakup scene and thinking these were my two main characters who are going to fall apart. So what am I going to listen to? It's not going to be a fun song. So I tried to play all of the saddest ones I could to get myself emotional,
yeah.
just so that I could really put that into the writing. And then that's what I like to do. I mean, it should be hard. I think if you're trying to do a good job as a writer,
Mm-hmm.
it's fun. I have a great time in these characters' heads, but when I'm writing a scene about grief or a breakup or what, you know, from the character's point of view, it might just be that they stubbed their toe, but in that moment, it's got to be the most painful thing they're experiencing. I got to put myself into that mindset.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it can be kind of an emotional roller coaster. Sometimes I get done with a writing session and it feels like a therapy session. I'm just like,
Yeah.
I'm exhausted.
Yeah, I'll
You
bet.
know?
I'll bet. You know, I was watching the SAG Awards, and they were talking about just this, about that's what, acting's about is, being empathic and putting yourself in a character's place, and that's so true. That's what writing is about also, right? When you develop characters, you are them, and it can be like super emotional, and super draining.
Yeah, and I think, you know, I'd like to say this. I'm sure this is backed up, but I always argue, I feel like writing is the deepest form of thinking
Mm,
that I love talking about ideas and of course sharing it this way. But when I really want to try to surprise myself or learn something that I've never even thought about before, I have to actually write. It triggers a deeper empathy. Maybe I'm just making this up too, but that's what it feels like, you know?
yeah, yeah. Hey, it
Yeah,
works for you, right? Mm.
exactly.
So are you doing outlines like even for like horror stories?
I
That's
mean,
your
my outlines are, yeah, I guess you could put it in quotation marks. I have an outline.
okay.
Yeah, and I've tried all sorts of different things. I've tried everything, and I have tried really formal outlines. I have a storyboard notebook, you know,
Yeah.
like just a bunch of squares, and I like using that sometimes.
Okay.
But what I try to do is just outline where I want to go. And really, I'm always trying to keep two things in mind. What's my end game? What are we trying to get to? There has to be that major thing we're working towards achieving or fighting or accomplishing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I have that major goal in mind. And then on the way there, have to be a variety of obstacles. And I try to outline as many of those as I can. But the best thing I think you can do is surprise yourself when a new obstacle or a new challenge comes your way. And the more that you get to think about that, the better. So, like Darkness Calls is a perfect example. Yes, I absolutely outlined the first draft and
Mm-hmm.
I did my best with it. And I thought, this is all right. But you know what it's missing? It's on with the help of some readers and some editorial feedback, we came up with it's missing a character. I think that this story needs another character, so I rewrote the whole thing, adding a character who turned out to be probably my favorite because
Oh.
she's not really fully human either. So I have a lot of fun with her, but I'm like, I want kind of a supernatural entity or character. I think that's what's going to drive this forward. So yeah, I mean, I completely that wasn't even in the first outline. So I think I try to go with the flow, but structure it as much as possible. I don't just sit down without any idea of what I'm doing and just start, babbling. Although that's probably not the worst thing either, just to try to uncover and unbury ideas that you might have in your subconscious and see what pops out. But
Yeah.
I like the outline to be flexible and that sort of idea.
That's great. Yeah, I've heard some authors talk about not doing any kind of outline or really having any agenda for their characters, and then they kind of write themselves into a corner and they're like, where do I go from here? And there's a lot of backtracking then that goes on. Um, so
Yeah, and same. Sometimes you can start an outline and you want that ending so bad that you make it happen, even if it doesn't, even if your story starts to take you in a different direction. And I think that's a voice that I listen to. In the third book that's in the Aiden series that's coming out is another perfect example. I don't want to say what it is because it's not even been published yet, but
mhm.
there was an end that I really thought I had this really cool twist in mind. And the first draft, I kind of forced it to happen, and just sitting back, I thought, you know what? This is a perfect example of me forcing an idea that I thought was good through 80,000 words, just saying, no, I'm not changing this one idea. And then thinking, I think it needs to change. It's not working. And I completely gutted a really big twist that I was going to do and modified it in a way that works much better for the story. So
Yeah.
you have to be willing to do that too.
Yeah, you do, definitely. You said you will do like a storyboard. Like, do you do that like on like your laptop, or do you actually physically do a storyboard in?
Yeah, I have an actual note. You can get story if you go if you go to Google and just type in storyboard notebooks. I have a couple where I have to handwrite my ideas. That's really weird. I never handwrite anything in terms of a chapter or actual manuscript material. But when I outline, it's always just handwritten.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that means, right? Because I think I just like the brainstorming process of just having pen to paper.
Yeah.
So I get these storyboard notebooks and I do it for each act or part of the story, and then I also I use them for the characters. So I'll put down Christina, who's one of my characters in Darkness Calls, and then I'll list everything I know about her on that page. And when, of course, new ideas come up and new things I need to remember, I go back to my character page and I add this note. When Christina gets upset or nervous, her habit is her throat dries up, so it's just like
Mm.
boom, then that's kind of a unique thing for her. Or she loves her favorite, whatever her favorite color is, so I keep a track of that so that I can revise that when needed or reference it. Because sometimes I don't even remember what I wrote about yesterday.
Yep.
So yeah,
Yep.
to recall a character from a few years ago, you really got to keep yourself well organized.
Yeah, you're right. That is great that you do that. I've read books where I'm like, wait a minute, like it would be a series, and I'd be like, that's not what they said before about this person. So
Hmm.
it does it does really help you to stay connected with your characters. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So can you tell us a little bit more about Darkness Calls? Like you said, there are four diverse characters.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. Not to ask you a random weird question, just the thing I'm looking at on my computer on my end. We're recording, yes?
Yes, we are.
Okay, it's just I had a thing on my end that didn't look like it was, and I was like, wait a minute, if was I supposed to do something?
Oh
Sorry
no,
if you.
nope. Yep,
So
yep.
sorry, listeners, if we don't edit that out. That's just Joe being weird on his end. Yeah, so here's a good writing 101 thought that connects to it. I heard so many creative writing people and teachers and books say things like, every story's been told, and I almost, it's almost said in a discouraging way.
Yeah.
Maybe because there are a lot of writers or a lot of books out there. But when I think about that idea, that's an idea that would discourage me. So I think, no, what I actually tell my students is that not far from that. Every story, if you want to argue every story's been told, fine, but not every story's been told through your perspective.
Yeah.
So when I particularly wanted to write Darkness Calls, I wanted a cast of four very diverse characters, at least, and there's more than that, of course, but I was going to just do four main points of view.
Hmm.
So my top four characters, if you will. And I wanted each to have a tragedy, either in their past or present, and I wanted each to look and be and identify differently too. So Christina has had childhood trauma. Lawson is a queer character. Angelica is a very powerful black woman who's losing her grandfather. Her grandfather has just passed. Teddy is this adorable Latino boy in my story who is really trying to understand his family, and he's struggling with the law. His mom's got cancer. And they each have different perspectives and experiences based on these things, right? So the cool thing is, I can take something like death or a monster in the woods or just a relationship and a breakup, and every single one of those characters is going to come to that idea with a different point of view.
Yeah.
And that drives the action and drives the conflict. So as simple as one of my favorite scenes, I want this to be a novel that's kind of philosophical too, because I feel like it's a missed opportunity if you're going to go deep into a story where people experience loss of loved ones and not explore that. So I have one very anti-religious character, and I have one who's religious too, and they work together in the story, but they approach this evil from different perspectives, and I think it's okay to learn from those different perspectives. And in fact, if anything, the theme would be we need to learn how to work together with these different ideas. So that's just one of the unique ways I wanted to hopefully tell the story. So you get about 6 or 7 to 8 chapters from each character's point of view, and then it switches to the next. And then but we don't go back in time. I don't do I don't do flashbacks. We keep moving forward, but it just shifts. To, and part 2 is a whole new character's perspective, and we follow them around in the present time. And it all culminates at the end, what I hope will be a beautiful moment and a wonderful ending. It's part 1 of 2 stories. So
Oh,
there is a second one that's done, and we basically took one great big story and chopped it in half and made 2 parts out of it.
wow. That is good to know. That's great. So was that part of your editing process, was to chop it in half, or is that
Yeah,
yeah?
yeah. To be honest, okay, I'll just give you an honest cheat. Here you go. I was this was the first book that landed me a literary agent. This is the first book that a literary agent landed a bigger publisher for me. So this is really cool
Oh,
opportunity. And but still,
congratulations.
thank you. But still being a brand new author and the new publisher, they basically were like, we don't print books that long. They cost more to make. And if you're
Oh,
still a pretty new author, we don't want to publish a 200,000 word novel. We, keep it
yes.
under 100,000 words. And of course, well, I've got 200,000 words in Darkness Calls. So what did I do? Oh, what do you mean? Here's part 1. Here it
That's
is.
great.
And so was it a little bit of a cheat? Yeah, well, they know that too. But it worked out pretty easily for me. I think the hardest part was just trying to figure out exactly where to end it in the middle,
Hmm.
and then to also make sure I had a really big climax there. Like, I mean, because it could be a standalone. If you don't finish it, I
Hmm.
still want an ending to that story.
Yeah.
At least to what's going on in that part, and it is. I'm very, very excited by that ending, and yeah, I finished the second book late last year. I'd been working on the second part forever, but of course, we edit the heck out of the first one, things change, and then I go back through and rework the second part and make sure I've got the ending that I want and everything. And I think it's a really cool story. I'm hopeful. I mean, the publisher was super excited about it. The agent was, of course, excited about it, and it's selling better than anything else I've ever had. And it hasn't even come out yet. So
That's
I
so
don't know.
awesome.
Let's just hope that, yeah, I just hope people like the story because it's kind of fun to get to share something that you geek out about with others. That's really well all it is. I'm still just a little kid who wants to tell a story on the inside, like listen to this story I came up with. Here it is.
Well, we're
Yeah.
glad that you are. And when is it published to the masses?
March 4th, March
Okay.
4th.
All
So
right.
right around from the time of this recording, we're just a week and a day away. Yeah, so you can pre-order it absolutely anywhere. But yeah, it officially releases March 4th.
Wonderful. Wow, this is great. I can't wait to check back in with you and see how it does and see how you're doing. Um, so when you're writing stories like Darkness Calls, do you ever scare yourself?
That's the best thing to do would be to create something that gives me nightmares. And yeah, so if I can, because you think about a character or a scene for so long, and especially the way that I work, I like to work on a project, put it away for months or years, come back to it, work on it again, put it away. The longer, this has definitely been probably the book that has been in the slow cooker the longest, so to speak. Doesn't mean it wasn't done. It just
Yeah.
means I keep coming back and keep poking it and keep messing with it and working with it. And so those scenes, they get buried in your subconscious.
Yeah.
And when I can dream about it, if that's the moment I feel like, okay, maybe I've got something because there is a scene that I have dreamed about that's really dark and creepy and cool. And so I hope that it comes off that way to readers too.
Oh,
Absolutely.
that's great. That's really great. So speaking of going back and poking at it, and um, how do you like maintain your focus and your self discipline to just keep at it really?
I just know that if you want to tell a really good story, and I'm not necessarily perfect about this or anything like that, but it's almost like you have to understand that it's patience, collaboration, and rewriting where the magic happens. And I know that I have written decent stories before that because I sat on them and let them marinate and then got help, got people to read it, got feedback and rewrote things. I had decent stories that turned out to be really, really good, I think, because of that. And I've also had really great ideas that I tried to get out really quickly that just sort of fizzle and fade and they're gone in a blink of an eye because the quality just wasn't there.
Hmm.
So it's almost like it's the weird thing. It's impatience versus ego or something, right? You almost have to convince yourself that if you really do want the best quality work, you owe it to yourself to go through this process and discipline yourself to wait, to put it away, to not look at it for at least a month when you finish the first draft, and then to reread it, and then to give it to people to read, and then go through that process a few times, and you'll get a much better product every single time.
Yeah, that's rough. That's a lot of work and a lot of energy, and I know that you have another uh job, another hat that you wear out in the world.
Yes.
You're teaching at the higher ed level, right? Um,
Yes, I'm a college communication professor full time, and I teach a couple of creative writing classes as well. But my full time is communication. Yeah.
okay. And what's it like working in higher ed right now in this kind of climate? I'll say.
It's the first time I've been teaching full time for 24 years, and I love education for so many wonderful reasons. But part of the reason I write and I am ambitious about my writing and what I'm trying to do is I want to be a good model for my students, and I want to be. I walk into the classroom and I always say this. I say. Hi, I'm Joe Chianakas. I not necessarily like this, but on day one, they'll find out I'm married to my husband, Brian. I'm a queer man. I'm adopted. I'm a writer. I have a lot of big goals, and I try to share. I just want to be an authentic version of myself at all times, and preferably a joyful and successful, authentic version of myself,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
This is probably the first time in 24 years I walked into the classroom this January, and I got the butterflies in my stomach. I got anxiety, like almost like it's my first year of teaching again because I'm like, how will what will my students say? Am I comfortable being myself? Should I be scared to be myself?
Oh
And then
man.
I remind myself that um yes, 100% absolutely slap yourself on the face and be the confident version of yourself that you know you can be, because it's not about you and it's not even about the people that disagree with you. It's about the queer kid sitting in that classroom that maybe doesn't have anyone to look up to. And damn it, he, she, or they need someone to look up to. So you've got to come out. Is it uncomfortable at times? Is it hard at times? You bet. But I'm a little more fired up than normal, I think, maybe in 2025 as well, and also very anxious. So
Yeah.
it kind of all blends together. It's
Yeah.
not easy, but I think that that's the job that I can do. I can't, you and we want to, I wish we all could just make some really big changes in the
Yeah.
world. We can only do it one person, one community, one thing at a time. So I'm just doing the absolute best I can in my classroom. And my kids, for the most part, I call them kids. They're,
Yep.
some of them are older than me. But 99.9% of the time I've had just the absolute best relationship. And I think just having a positive relationship will make a difference for them. So that's
I
what I'm hoping.
Yeah, I totally agree, Joe. I think, relationships make the difference. And, uh, if you're worried about like someone not agreeing with you or someone not being okay with you being who you are, right? I think you build that relationship and all that stuff kind of falls to the wayside because you have this core and you can build from that, right? And I know that you are a great teacher. I know that.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. You've won two distinguished teaching awards, like Teacher of the Year, 2 years in a row. Like that's just awesome. It just
Yeah, and that man, that those came from student nominations. So
yeah.
that's the best part behind it, is that it's no one else is making those decisions but the students where those were won. And so yeah, that makes a difference. It does. And I appreciate that. I don't want it to be about awards so much. I just want it to be, teaching is just a unique opportunity to hopefully spread joy, but also, we have a job to do, and I
Yeah.
do want to educate on some issues that it's just scare me sometimes, or the attitudes kids have that I think in the past I could politely challenge, and sometimes I am a little more nervous to challenge. I'll give you a perfect example. I had a boy tell me in class a couple of years ago, that his son would, oh gosh, it's almost disturbing to describe it the way he said it in front of the class, like, my son is popping out of my wife and holding the football the same day,
Oh boy.
and that sort of mentality. And I even said, I was like, well, what? So just being the facetious person I am, I was like, what would you do if your son wanted to play ballet? And I'm like, what? That ballet is not for boys. And if, so I'm rolling my eyes and I'm thinking to myself, see, this is what needs to change. I mean, there are these attitudes that people have been so radicalized over.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I just want people to kind of, that's where I get nervous, because in the past I'd be much more probably maybe in your face about, like, no, it's just a word, it's just a sport, it doesn't
Yeah.
mean anything.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, well, maybe today's not the day I have that fight. I don't know, but
Yeah.
I still have students who have that idea, but who's going to challenge them? And that's where we are in the world. I think that it's very obvious what's happening is the policies that certain individuals are trying to make are wanting to remove educators' ability to do just what I talked about. Because if
Yes.
we allow you to challenge or to grow or to think, God forbid, to think for yourself,
How about
then
it?
maybe become a kind person. If we can't talk about it, you won't become it. And that's a really, it's terrible, but
Yeah, it's like they want to do away with education and critical thinking. They want everyone to be like this numbed out zombie, just following the crowd. And, um, you know, well, we're not going to do it.
No. Yeah, I'm lucky. I'm in a school that supports diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. We and in a community and in a state, and so I am fortunate where I am. I think much more so than maybe some of my fellow colleagues who might find themselves in communities and states that are really reversing that. So it is an awkward world right now, and it's too bad. It's because let's just if we can just say one more political thing that
Hmm.
I've been wanting to say forever. It's just like, guys, who's in my bedroom or the gender that people identify with do not affect the prices of your eggs. For God's sake, focus.
How about
Get to
it?
work doing something, all right? More meaningful than coming after vulnerable people. Jeez.
Yes, yes, but it's uh, ultimately not about the price of eggs for some people. It's about other
Yeah.
things, and it never was about the price of eggs for some people,
I
right?
I think you're right, sadly.
Yeah, I know. So, so Joe, what courses are you teaching currently this semester?
So I get to teach an intro to communication class, a public speaking course, business and professional communication, and then those are my main three. And then so basically the intro class everyone has to take. We just get to talk about interpersonal communication, public speaking, and then I do have a pure public speaking class, and then the business and professional focuses on like workplace conflict, job interviews, different types of work organizations, and work culture and stuff like that. I love what I do. Is I think it's nice to work with students who maybe there's just something special about a community college, and that's where I'm full time. So I'm a first generation college student from my family, and I don't think, when you become a teacher, you hear that term a lot, like, what do you know about your first gen students? And the long of or the short of the long of it is,
Hmm.
well, if you're in a family that never went to school, they don't know how to help you. They just don't have the resources. It's not a criticism. It's just maybe they just don't have the experiences or resources to help you.
Yeah.
For me, being that first gen student and then kind of reflecting on, oh, wow, yeah, I kind of, I'm just, this isn't meant to be a pat on the back, but I'm just I like to figure things out on my own, and I don't have a problem asking for help and reaching out for help. I think that's one of the best things I've ever learned to do is ask for help.
It's a
But what
hard
I've
thing to do.
learned yeah, right. Exactly. Like when in my writing world, I go and like help.
Hmm.
Can someone edit this because I'm struggling? You've got to be honest about things, and so I like to share that message with my community college students because there's a lot of first generation students. There's a lot of students who are just really not sure what they want to do. They haven't figured out that quote unquote purpose yet. So all of those classes and levels give me the opportunity to just model that experience of figuring out what you want and trying to make sure you understand that it doesn't just don't expect it to fall on your lap.
Hmm.
Go out and learn what you need to learn and then go actively get what you want to get, and so that's a long answer to the classes. That's why I love them.
Yeah, yeah,
That's all.
no. I taught at a community college for a number of years, and one of the things I really enjoyed was getting to know the students because I got to know them really on a more intimate level than I would when I taught at a larger school where there were more people in the classroom, and it was just totally a different feel, a different vibe, and sometimes like we would end up doing like therapy sessions with somebody, like because they were struggling with family issues or daycare issues, and it was just
Yeah.
very different. But
Yeah, I've had students bring their kids to class. Yeah,
yeah,
that happens. It really does.
yeah, it does. It's but it's nice that you're there and you know helping people and changing the world in that way. It's awesome. Um, so Joe, what
Well,
do
thank
you?
you, and thank
Yeah,
you too for what you've done for students and everybody as well.
yeah. Hey, what are you working on right now?
Well, yeah, so I'm promoting Darkness Calls. And then I'm actually editing Fearless and Fabulous.
All
I'm
right.
sticking with it. I love it. That's book three in Aiden's world. So Singlets and Secrets, book one, Pride and Persistence, book two, and now Fearless and Fabulous. So I'm trying to work on sometimes it's just 20 minutes a day. Sometimes that's all the time I can get on top of work, but that's my advice to people is I don't care if it's only 20 minutes. I
Yeah.
schedule that. It's an appointment. I sit down and I write for 20 minutes, sometimes that's all you get. But I'm working on that. And so as soon as that's done, which that'll be wrapped up here in like a week or two, and then Darkness Calls comes out, and then I get to work with my editor on the sequel. So we'll go through that. And then I've got one other project in mind for this summer that I'm hoping to get to. I already have the first draft done. It's one of those things that I wrote years ago and like to bring out,
Nice.
but again, I love slow cooking my projects. Maybe that's something to think about. You don't have to rush. I'm a big slow cooker because then they change. But yeah, I have a murder mystery that I'm working on, and
Oh, cool.
yeah. So without saying too much, because it's going to change, it's several more times before it's ready to go. But
Yeah.
I'm looking. I just want to keep writing. For me, again, I don't know what I would do without this avenue, especially when the world it feels like it feels like I don't understand the world. I escape in my own and try to create a story that I hope entertains and allows other people to escape, but also makes sense of it. I think my favorite creative projects aren't just escapes from realities. They help us understand and make sense of reality. And that's what I hope Darkness Calls does with the big issues, life and death, and other things. But so I'm always working on something, and hopefully, as long as I have that drive, I'll keep going forward. Yeah.
Well, I hope so. I hope so. You obviously love what you do. You like kind of exude this passion and energy. So it's really great to see.
Well, thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
yeah. So Joe, that is about all the time we have for today. And I'm wondering if you have any parting words for our listeners.
Oh, keep reading diverse books, celebrate diverse books. Of course, I want you to get Darkness Calls. Please do so. But once you've read Darkness Calls, love it or hate it, keep reading other diverse books. That it matters, and share it with others. Let people know what you're reading. There's so much content out there. So when you come across something that, I don't know, you looked forward to and you lost yourself in, let people know. Because I think I want to hear more things about that. That's how we'll add joy, is let us know what's bringing you joy.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome, Joe. So listeners, pick up a copy of Darkness Calls by Joe Chianakas. It is available March 4th to the public, and it's available anywhere you buy your books. So check it out. And Joe, thanks again for being with us today. It was a pleasure talking with you. I hope to see you back on the show soon.
I
Well,
will come anytime you'll have me. And I appreciate everything you do for books and the community and life in general. You also are a source of inspiration. Please keep doing what you're doing. We love it.
oh,
Thank you for the opportunity.
thank you, Joe. Thanks. So that's all the time we have for today, folks. And I'm Anita Kelly. Thanks for joining. Let's talk about books, baby. So until next time, may your journey be lighthearted, peace be plenty, and be safe, folks.